Alright everybody, today we are continuing with our Sword of Eternals talk. In the last video we talked about the Eternals, and I mentioned how we would be talking about Kit Harington and how he's playing Black Knight in the Eternals and what that means, so that's what this video is all about. So, to get started, Kit Harington is playing Black Knight in the Eternals. Is he an Eternal? No. Is he a Celestial? No. He is actually just a guy. He's just a human. Black Knight has been held by three different people that role. The original guy, his name was Sir Percy of Scandia. He was the original Black Knight, and he's from King Arthur's time. What makes Black Knight special is the ebony blade, which is his major weapon. It's his sword, and it's a mystical sword. It's enchanted by Merlin, again during the King Arthur time, and it can cut through anything and reflect all sorts of attacks. Sometimes it's been said that whenever whoever holds it gets some sort of like a power boost, like strength, agility, and whatnot. But that's generally not said. It's just that it's like a really good weapon to use if you're a capable person to use it, if that makes any sense. So that was the original guy. But the thing with the ebony blade is that it has a blood curse, and it slowly drives the user insane with every time it draws blood. It doesn't have to kill the person, just when they draw blood. So that's a pretty big thing. The reason why that happened is because Merlin forged it in a pool of blood, specifically a river containing the blood of humanity. And then it's also made out of a starstone meteorite. I don't know if that matters, but it is made out. So it's that pool of blood containing the blood of humanity and why it has that curse. So it drives you insane and you kind of want to go kill more people, and you start losing your damn mind. So again, Sir Percy was the first one, and actually every Black Knight has been a part of the same family line. The second one was Nathan Garrett, and he's known as like the evil Black Knight. You know, he even joined Baron Zemo's Master of Evil in the comics. We know we've seen Baron Zemo in Civil War. There's talks about him coming back in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, but Civil War kind of ended where he just kind of gave up. That wasn't like a necessarily correct representation of the character, but maybe, I don't know, he decided to become more evil or whatever. So who knows, maybe that plays into it at some point. Oh, what's another thing that's pretty cool about the Ebony Blade is that it can transport its wielder through time and space. So it's like Mjolnir. So, you can teleport with it, kind of like how Thor goes to Asgard and whatnot. And also he can call it. So if, he holds out his hand, the sword will fly to him and you'll catch it. So that's another thing about the sword and why it is so cool. So it is assumed that Kit Harington will be playing Dane Whitman, which is the modern day version of Black Knight and the most popular version. He's the one that we see most often, and he's the current guy who holds the mantle. But what's interesting is that Dane's uncle is Nathan Garrett, the evil Black. And in the comics, Nathan Garrett gets defeated or whatever, and right before he dies, he calls Dane to him, and then he repents himself from all of his sin, and then Dane takes up the mantle of Black Knight because he wants to better it. So that I don't know if they'll show that in the Eternals movie, but if Black Knight ever gets his own solo movie or solo series, that's something that he could definitely play out. It's a very mystical character because of like the whole King Arthur and Merlin. So that could be kind of cool. Dane, cool things is that he's fought with Doctor Strange. He's been a member of the Avengers, and even in some of the stories where Cap's dead, he's kind of like the de facto leader on the battlefield. So that's kind of cool. He's also been a member of the Defenders as well, with Valkyrie. Valkyrie's been a member of the Defenders as well. But the Defenders, as we know, the Netflix universe was a separate, I guess. So we don't know. Maybe they'll reboot that, or maybe once the 2-year contract time period opens up, like, yeah, those are the same characters or whatever. There's a cool storyline where he traveled back in time to save Camelot, and with Merlin's help, he actually even ends up staying in Camelot for some time. But then he ends up coming back to the present day. There's a storyline that's kind of interesting where he frees Sir Percy's spirit from the earthly plane to get rid of the blood curse because he realized he was going mad. But then the blood curse came back even more so, and it started turning Dane's body into the same metal that the sword was made out of. It came to the point where anytime anybody even touched him, patted him on the back, you'd cut your hand, you'd start bleeding. And every time you bleed, the blood curse gets worse for the user. And because he became the sword, he was, literally going insane. So then he gets help from Doctor Strange, and he helps him go back to normal and makes the sword back to normal. But then the curse still exists with the sword. And then he puts down the sword at one point, and then some other dude picks up the sword, and he ends up becoming the villain named Bloodwraith. So again, solo movie type thing, series, that could be something to see in the future. Another thing, at one point he joined the Heroes for Hire, specifically with Iron Fist and Hercules. Yeah, the Greek pantheon exists, and the gods do exist in the Marvel universe, kind of like the the Norse gods do. The Greek gods are extra dimensional beings. Like they exist on like another plane and reality. It's kind of weird and interesting. And then they just lived on Earth and people thought they were gods. They actually even have stories with the Celestials and the Eternals. So maybe flashbacks or maybe a future movie to look into, but that's something that could definitely incorporate. Whereas we know like the Norse gods in this universe are just aliens, those superpowers. Some more cool things that he is in the Secret Invasion storyline, which we know is about like the Skrulls and the Kree, and with Captain Marvel, and at the end of Homecoming, we know that storyline's going to be coming up soon. Dracula's also in the Secret Invasion storyline, funny enough. And but bringing that up, we know that Blade, Mahershala Ali, is playing Blade in a Blade TV show that's going to be in Phase 5. So, and he has some run-ins with Dracula. So I think it's very possible that him and Blade could be teaming up, in some sort of Secret Invasion style, and they're fighting Dracula or what seems to be Dracula, and he's saved for the Blade TV shows. I don't entirely know how the future is going to play out, but maybe that's a possibility. Some more cool things about Black Knight is that, so when he got rid of the ebony blade because it was driving him insane, he ended up making something called the Neural Sword, and it's basically a lightsaber. Here's a picture. Yeah, it's a lightsaber, which is pretty cool. I think he ends up going back to the ebony blade, and he goes back and forth, but he tries to use every other weapon as possible because he doesn't want to go insane, but sometimes if he has to use ebony blade, he will. But the Neural Sword is one of his weapons that he uses often. He also has Avalonian equipment, like armor that is like super durable, and he has something called the Shield of Night, which is again Merlin made for him when he went and traveled back in time. And the Shield of Night can absorb all energy and displace it through the Sword of Light. So it's a kind of a duo thing. So he can like deflect and block, and then boom, hit him back with the sword. The sword can shoot projectile energy beams, which is kind of cool, and it can cut through anything, basically. I think even vibranium, I'm pretty sure, because again, it's magic, and the way comics work is that you can have all your science and all your powers and whatever you want, but as soon as magic's in play, that's it. Magic always wins. Those are some cool weapons he ends up getting from Merlin. Again, I don't think they'd be shown in this movie, but in a future movie or something, that would be very cool. Avalon actually first appeared in one of the Fantastic Four comics. And Avalon is known as Otherworld in the comics sometimes as well. They go back and forth. So, you can use Black Knight and sort of introduce the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four, different versions of them getting powers is them going to other planes or realities or space or something. They go somewhere and they get their powers. Maybe in the MCU they go to Avalon and Merlin straight up just gives them powers. We don't entirely know how they're going to introduce Fantastic Four, but this is totally a way you can do it because, there's a connection between this character, so that's pretty cool. And in just regular mythology with King Arthur, it's weird because King Arthur is real, but we don't know entirely all these stories because they're so old. But Excalibur was supposedly forged in Avalon, giving him the power and whatnot. He was the only person who wielded it. Okay, so now the question, why does Black Knight matter and why is he even in this movie? So, he has a relationship with Cersei. No, not Cersei from Game of Thrones. Cersei from the Eternals. Gemma Chan is playing this character. They end up having a love relationship, but Cersei ends up going mad for some reason, and they end up having their minds like mentally bound together, and that happens with another Eternal. Like he makes their minds bind, but then when that happens, some sort of portal in the multiverse opens up, and like an evil version of Black Knight comes in, like Dane himself. So I think in this movie that could potentially happen. I don't know if that'd be like the main Eternal villain, but that's something maybe, we notice at the very end of the movie. Oh, there's an evil Black Knight running around now, and not like his uncle, like from the other multiverse, some other reality. So that could be something really cool. I think that's totally what's going to happen. When Dane and Cersei's minds were merged together, he did get some physical attributes enhanced, like his strength and speed and agility, because his mind was shared with her, so he was like sort of getting some of her powers. But I think when their minds split, and I believe Strange does that, or maybe one of the Eternals does that, I could be wrong. I think he loses the powers, that enhancement he got. I think it's only because his mind was melded with hers for a little bit. Dane is actually a very scientific person. He has, I think, mechanical engineering, his master's or something in. And he always approaches things from that perspective. But it's interesting because he has all these ties to magic and supernatural clearly, but he still tries to look at everything in a scientific fashion. So that's kind of cool. There's also a story that involves Crystal from the Inhuman royal family. So it'd be cool to see him on the big screen and be done correctly. I was so heartbroken when Marvel decided not to make an Inhuman movie, and they made that limited TV run, which was all right? It was all right. But, if they did an actual movie version, movie production, movie writing, there's so much more could have happened. So he has ties with Crystal. He actually ends up, I think, having a relationship with Crystal as well. And maybe, I think he has the relationship with Crystal around the time Cersei goes mad. They're on a break or something. Yeah, that could be interesting. So that's all we have today for the information about Black Knight, Kit Harington, Dane Whitman, and all of that jazz going on. So if you have any thoughts or anything, put them in the comment section below. We can get a discussion going. And yeah, I'm excited about Kit Harington playing Black Knight. I think he's a fantastic actor. I loved Game of Thrones. It's funny because he's kind of playing like a futuristic Jon Snow. So that's going to be good. I think it'd be cool if he got his own TV show. That'd be a really cool thing to see. I mean, everyone loves medieval shit, right? So that'd be really cool. And yeah, thanks, guys. You guys have a good day. I don't remember if I said it or not, but just in case. So when he traveled back in time to Camelot to help save it with Merlin, Merlin did give him a winged horse called Valinor. He does ride around on a winged horse. Something to note, and it'd be really cool to see. All right, guys, have a good one.